I recently revisited The Curse of Monkey Island on the channel. A childhood classic of mine, and in replaying it, it made me realise just how much this game has meant to me over the years, and how well it holds up even today. I want to take some time to reflect on what made the game so special, not just to me, but so many others who fell in love with Guybrush and the world of Monkey Island. The Curse of Monkey Island holds a special place in the pantheon of classic adventure games, not only because of its rich gameplay and memorable characters, but also because of the development journey that led to its creation. Released in 1997, Curse is the third installment in the Monkey Island series. Following the cult success of The Secret Monkey Island in 1990 and Monkey Island 2 LeChuck's Revenge in 1991. But the path of Curse was not a straightforward one. After the release of LeChuck's Revenge, Monkey Island creator Ron Gilbert left LucasArts to pursue other projects. This left a noticeable gap in the creative leadership behind the scenes. Gilbert had been the driving force behind the original two games, and fans weren't sure if Monkey Island could continue without his distinct vision. Nevertheless, LucasArts, which was known for producing some of the most beloved point-and-click adventure games of the 90s, decided to continue the series without him. This is where the development of Curse gets interesting. The new team was helmed by Jonathan Ackley and Larry Ahern, who were handed the reins of the Monkey Island universe. Both Ackley and Ahern had previously worked at LucasArts on games like Day of the Tentacle, and they brought with them a deep understanding of the company's comedic style and design philosophy. However, they also faced the challenge of taking over a series with an incredibly passionate fan base and a legacy tied into Gilbert's unique touch. Ackley and Ahern embraced the challenge by infusing Curse with their own brand of humour while staying true to the spirit of the original games. One of their key decisions was to shift the art style dramatically. Where the first two Monkey Island games used pixel art, Curse opted for a much more vibrant, hand-drawn, cartoon-like aesthetic. The new visual direction was an instant hit, giving the game a timeless animated feel that still holds up today. The lush, colourful backdrops and exaggerated character designs made it feel like you were playing through an interactive cartoon. The game was developed using the Scum engine script creation utility for Maniac Mansion, which had been the foundation of LucasArts adventure games. While Scum was aging by the late 90s, the team pushed it to its limits to deliver more fluid animations and a higher degree of visual polish than the previous Monkey Island entries. They also incorporated the innovative iMuse interactive music streaming engine system, which allowed the background music to shift dynamically based on player actions. This created a seamless and immersive auditory experience as you explored the islands and interacted with the characters. One of the biggest innovations in The Curse of Monkey Island was the addition of voice acting. A first in the series, the previous two games had been text-based with dialogue delivered through on-screen captions. Curse, however, brought the world to life with fully voiced characters, which elevated the humour, wit and charm of the game to a whole new level. At the heart of this transformation was Dominic Armato, the voice actor who would forever define the character of Guybrush Threepwood. Armato's portrayal of Guybrush is nothing short of iconic. His voice perfectly captures Guybrush's mix of innocence, cockiness and cluelessness, adding layers to the characters that weren't possible with just text. Armato's performance was so beloved by the fans that he would go on to voice Guybrush in all future installments of the series. His delivery of witty comebacks, sarcastic remarks and absurd observations is pitch perfect, making the game's humour land in ways it hadn't before. The voice cast also featured Alexandra Boyd as Elaine Marley, who brought a strong and confident presence to the character, and Earl Bowen as the menacing yet hilariously over-the-top villain LeChuck. Bowen's deep, growling voice gave LeChuck the gravitas of a classic villain, while also perfectly nailing the exaggerated theatrics of the character. LeChuck's constant attempts to win Elaine's love, often through the most nefarious means possible, are made all the more entertaining by Bowen's dynamic performance. Other notable voice actors include Denny Delk as Murray, the wisecracking demonic skull, and Leilani Jones as the Voodoo Lady, both who became fan favourites thanks to their memorable lines and comedic timing. The development of The Curse of Monkey Island came during what many fans consider to be LucasArts' golden age. The studio was riding high on the success of previous adventure games like Days of the Tentacle, Sam & Max Hit the Road, and Full Throttle. While LucasArts was also known for its Star Wars games, it was their adventure game catalogue that earned them a reputation of creativity, humour, and innovation. For Ackley, Ahern and their team, this was both a blessing and a challenge. On one hand, they had the backing of one of the most well-regarded game studios in the world. On the other hand, they had to live up to the legacy of the Monkey Island series and maintain LucasArts' reputation for excellence. Despite the pressure, they succeeded in crafting a game that captured the essence of the series while introducing fresh elements that kept it from feeling like just another sequel. Now, let's talk about what really makes Curse of Monkey Island shine. The characters. For me, this is where the game truly comes alive. You've got Guybrush Threepwood, Elaine Marley and LeChuck, the central trio of the series, but the supporting cast is equally fantastic, each bringing their own quirks and comedic brilliance to the table. Guybrush Threepwood is of course our lovable protagonist. He is the quintessential underdog, and that's what makes him so relatable. In an era filled with muscle-bound macho heroes, Guybrush is the opposite. He's a bit of a klutz, he's constantly out of his depth, but he has the determination and charm that makes you want to root for him no matter what. What I love about him in Curse is how his voice acting by Dominic Amato really solidifies him as this witty, self-deprecating character. Guybrush's inner monologue and snappy one-liners are delivered with perfect comedic timing, and that's a huge part of why the game's humour works so well. One of the best things about Guybrush is his unshakable belief that he is a mighty pirate, even when everything is suggesting otherwise. And that is kind of the magic of Monkey Island as a whole. It's a world where absurdity reigns, but beneath all the jokes, there's a real heart to Guybrush's journey. He's always trying, always pushing forward, and that makes him a character that you just can't help but love. We then have Elaine Marley, the governor of the Tri-Island area and Guybrush's love interest. Though she's far more than just that, Elaine is a strong, smart, and always one step ahead of Guybrush. In fact, much of the humour in their relationship comes from the fact that she's constantly saving him. Elaine is maybe considered the real hero, and in Care she continues to outshine Guybrush at nearly every turn. What's great about their dynamic is that she clearly cares about him, but she's also deeply aware of his flaws and is never afraid to call him out on them. There's this moment early on in the game when Guybrush tries to propose to Elaine and he accidentally turns her into a gold statue. This is such a perfect encapsulation of their relationship, Guybrush's grand gestures backfiring in spectacular ways, while Elaine just patiently deals with the chaos that he brings. Though in this instance, there is not much that she can do about it. And to complete the kind of main character trio, we finally have LeChuck, the undead pirate who has been tormenting Guybrush since the very first game. By the time we get to Curse of Monkey Island, LeChuck's fully embraced his role as an over-the-top villain. He's evil, yes, but he's also incredibly theatrical. He relishes in his villainy, and that's what makes him such a fun watch. Every time LeChuck is on the screen, you know you're in for a good time. He's constantly scheming, constantly cackling, and always looking for ways to make Guybrush's life miserable. But what makes LeChuck so memorable isn't just his evil plans, it's the humour in his interactions with Guybrush. The game knows how to play with the typical hero-villain dynamic in a way that feels fresh and entertaining. LeChuck is menacing, sure, but he's also kind of ridiculous, and that's what makes him the perfect foil for Guybrush. Now, beyond the main trio, we have a host of colourful side characters that make the world of Monkey Island feel alive. From Murray the hilariously evil Talking Skull to the various pirates you encounter along the way, every character in Curse is memorable in their own right. The dialogue is sharp, witty, and often laugh-out-loud funny, which is a testament to the game's excellent writing. One of the most memorable parts of Curse of Monkey Island is when Guybrush assembles his ragtag crew of pirate barbers. In classic Monkey Island fashion, it's a hilarious twist on the usual assemble a mighty pirate crew trope. But instead of fearsome experienced sailors, you get three quirky barbers, each with their own unique personalities and comedic traits. First is Haggis McMutton, the Scottish pirate with a fondness for shearing, and a strong moral compass. Haggis is probably the most grounded of the three, but that's not really saying much. He's torn between his loyalty to barbering and his past life as a pirate, and that inner conflict gives him a little bit of depth. He's got a man of honour kind of vibe to him, but you can't help but laugh at the way he's always clinging on to his love of cutting hair. We then have Cutthroat Bill. He comes across as quite a menacing character, but maybe that he's more talk than he is to action. He often talks about his past adventures and supposed toughness, but you kind of quickly realise that Bill has got a bit of a soft side to him as well. He's a perfect fit for the Monkey Island universe, completely absurd and somehow endearing in his delusions of being a mighty pirate himself. Bill is the guy who tells tales about his exploits, but you know he probably hasn't left the barbershop for a couple of years now. And finally, there's Edward Van Helgen, the foppish mustachioed pirate who's obsessed with dueling etiquette. Edward is all about honour and precision, but in the most exaggerated, ridiculous way possible. He's more concerned with form and style than actually getting things done. His obsession with proper pirate duels and the right way to do things makes for some of the game's funniest moments, especially when contrasted with Guybrush's more slapdash approach to piracy. Together, these three make up the most unlikely pirate crew you could ever hope to sail with. They bring a lot of personality and humour to the game, and their interactions with Guybrush are full of witty banter. The whole idea of recruiting barbers to be your pirate crew is such a great example of how Curse of Monkey Island takes classic pirate tropes and just turns them on the head. Instead of seasoned sailors, you get a group of barbers who are just as likely to offer you a shave as they are to raise the sails. What makes the barbers truly memorable is how they fit into the overall tone of the game. Curse of Monkey Island thrives of mixing absurdity with charm, and these two characters encapsulate this perfectly. They're ridiculous, but in the most delightful way, and like everything else in the game, they remind you that this isn't your typical swashbuckling adventure, this is Monkey Island, where the unexpected is always just around the corner. Now, let's talk about the narrative and the storytelling. One of the reasons Curse of Monkey Island stands out so much is it's the way that it blends humour with its heart. Sure, it's a game filled with pirates and treasure hunts and wacky characters, but underneath all of this is a surprisingly rich story that makes you care about the actual characters. First and foremost, the game's narrative is packed with satire. It doesn't just poke fun at pirate myths and adventure tropes. It constantly lampoons itself and the genre that it indeed exists in. The game knows exactly when to break the fourth wall, and its self-awareness is part of its charm. From Guybrush's ridiculous ideas about being a mighty pirate to the way it handles adventure game conventions like inventory management, Curse is always playing with expectations and keeping things lighthearted. But it's not just jokes. That's the real beauty of it. Beneath all the humorous dialogue and slapstick moments, there's a genuine sense of adventure. Guybrush is more than just a buffoon in a pirate costume. He's a guy on a quest, and he's deeply in love with Elaine. Their relationship is a key part of the narrative. It's not just a romantic epic, but it's relatable. Guybrush's love for Elaine often drives him to do pretty foolish things, like accidentally turning it into the gold statue, and that mix of comedy and genuine affection gives the game an emotional backbone that you could not really expect from other point-and-click adventures, maybe. LeChuck, the eternal antagonist, also plays a big role in making the story work. He is the classic big bad pirate villain, but he's also absurd, ridiculous, and more than just a little theatrical. It's what makes him such an entertaining villain. LeChuck's schemes to win Elaine's affection are so over the top, you can't help but enjoy every time he pops up to threaten Guybrush. And yet, his evil is real. There's real danger lurking behind his theatrics. It's that balance between humour and menace that keeps the story so engaging. And what really ties the story together in Monkey Island and the wider Monkey Island world itself is that every island, every town, every pirate ship feels fully realised. The sense of place is rich with atmosphere. Plunder Island, Blood Island, each locale has its own identity, and the game invites you to lose yourself in those environments. Narrative doesn't just drop you from point A to point B, it immerses you in a world of pirates and voodoo and strange quirky characters for you to explore really at your own pace. One of the most unique aspects of the Monkey Island series, and something that Curse handles exceptionally well, is its approach to puzzles. The game is filled with clever, often absurd puzzles that challenge you to think outside the box. But for me, the standout mechanic is always the insult sword fighting. Insult sword fighting is one of those ideas that's so perfectly in line with the game's tone. Rather than relying on reflexes or combat skills, you win fights by coming up with the best insults. And these insults are something you will learn over time while fighting other pirates on the high seas. But it's not just about memorising insults though. The real genius of insult sword fighting lies in its structure. You have to learn the insults by facing different opponents, and each time you build your repertoire of comebacks. It's a system that rewards trial and error, but also incredibly fun because the insults themselves are so ridiculous and over the top you don't mind hearing them. What I love about this mechanic is how it perfectly encapsulates the spirit of Monkey Island. It's not about brute strength or serious swordplay, it's about wit, it's about charm and humour. And that's really what the game's all about. You're constantly outwitting your enemies, using your brains rather than your brawn to solve the problem. In a way, insult sword fighting is a metaphor for the Guybrush's entire character. He's not a traditional hero, but he's always got a clever retort ready. So, why does Curse of Monkey Island still matter? Why does it resonate with players even years later? The answer lies in how well it captures the essence of the adventure while never taking itself that seriously. The characters, the puzzles, the humour, it all blends into an experience that is as enjoyable today as it is when it first came out. For many, including myself, Curse represents a high point for adventure games. LucasArts was in its prime and they knew how to craft A game that was both challenging and hilarious. The combination of clever puzzle design, memorable characters, and a whimsical world created something truly special. The voice acting also plays a huge role in its enduring legacy. Dominic Amato's portrayal of Guybrush Threepwood turned a beloved character into an iconic one. The game's full voice acting added layers to the witty dialogue that text-based games couldn't really match at the time, and that art style is just absolutely timeless. The hand-drawn animation feels more like a classic cartoon than a dated game. It's aged beautifully, which is why it still holds up visually today. The fact that fans continue to revisit and talk about Curse of Monkey Island is a testament to its lasting appeal. It's a game that balances nostalgia with craftsmanship, humour with genuine emotion, and difficulty with accessibility. Whether you're new to the series or returning after years, Curse of Monkey Island always offers you something fresh. For me, replaying Curse of Monkey Island has been a reminder of what makes adventure games so captivating. It's the joy of solving puzzles, the satisfaction of a witty comeback in insult sword fighting, and the love of the world that feels larger than life. It's the type of game that stays with you long after you've put it down, and I'm so glad that I got to experience it all over again. Thank you so much for listening to my little retrospective of Curse of Monkey Island. I've tried to keep a lot of the main story beats and puzzles out of it to be as spoiler-free as possible. If you'd like to see the game played, there is a playthrough on the channel. I'd really appreciate a little subscribe or a like if you liked it and want to see more of this kind of content. That would be amazing. But until next time, see you around, and bye for now.